a novel idea, a novel thought, a dynamic, nature would think in a different way what others might have not thought in line. Research is not going to observe certain things as it is been observed by everyone, but why it is so, why not it can be otherwise, is a thought-provoking session, a thought-provoking idea, which is the very nature of a researcher. So researcher don't take it things as it is, and as very well said by Albert Georgi, that research is to see what everybody else has seen, of course, but think differently. Okay, and think what nobody else has thought. So everybody seems to look at what has been presented to them, but think differently, criticize, uh, question, attitude of a person will take them to a successful research. So with this, let's move on. Writing effective PhD thesis have been, rendering lot many sessions on these topics. Today, I am here with you with some additional, points to ponder on and think differently, as it is quoted by Albert. Okay, and ensure that your PhD work before you begin your journey in PhD and research, you need to consider these points, and these points will definitely take you to great scores and to great heights. So what are those points which make this session very special is the points which I have come across over my journey in research. I have summed up all together in the slides. Followed by, we'll be discussing about how thesis writing will be happening. But before that, what are the points, significant points, which one has to think on before you start are covered. So to start with, see, regions covered by this basis of identification of the region for research. Here, region is all about the geographical limitations that you would be focusing on, geographical area. It could be a place area-wise or a geographical location that you would be that you would be preferring to conduct the research on. So while doing so, the researcher here is supposed to identify a region which has a concrete base, which means here that it is supposed to have a justification of why are you selecting this geographical location rather than the so many other locations which are there on the map. Why only this? A proper justification is required. Then scope of the proposed study. Here, scope of the proposed study refers to the areas which you're going to cover, the researcher is going to cover. The areas such as it could be a duration, it could be a geographical location, it could be the theoretical aspects, it could be non-theoretical aspects like models, etc. So what all you are going to cover in the present work, that defines your scope. So you need to be very clear. Now, why should you do this, and why? How is it going to make any difference in your studies? See, when you know your boundaries, scope is nothing more or less like boundaries to your work. If you define your boundaries, you know that once you're crossing the LOC of your work, okay, you immediately get alert and ensure that you don't move on. Okay, so what happens if you move on? What happens? Suppose if you are, crossing your lines and then moving on to explore more about the subject, you get diverted and you will be lost in the subject, because knowledge is ocean. and the research work that you are carrying is also, has got lot of knowledge, lot of areas, lot many things to cover and discover, right? So there is a need for you all to draw an LOC, a boundary for your study, so that the moment you cross that boundary, you get an alert notification and you stop it there. This probably will help a researcher to stick to the idea, stick to the core, region that you have selected. This will enable you to master in that particular area itself. This will help the researcher not to cross the boundaries and try to explore other areas rather than concentrating on a particular selected area. This will also help a researcher to justify their work. So defining scope becomes very important at the very beginning stage itself. When you know your boundaries, your limitations, you will be in a position as a researcher to justify your work and to focus only on certain aspects which you wanted to, explore on. Okay, next we move on to the third point, which is very important, that is major research works which have been reviewed. In the process of research work, the very first thing that we end up starting is literature review. Now, this literature review happens to be, in so many aspects. Now, here, point to focus is on international works and national works. With proper publications like UGC Scopus journals, ABDC journals, or UGC ISSN number journals. All these are good quality works that you can refer. So major part of your literature review should focus equally or proportionately on international as well as national. So while you are doing a literature review, ensure that number, how many reviews that you are doing, how many pages or how many reviews, books, journals, etc. Now, based on that number, divide it into equal halves or proportionately between international and national. This will give you an exposure to international work also. Mostly what happens is the researcher ends up taking up the literature review, whatever comes to their, convenient. But that is a wrong idea. If you take it, whatever is coming to you or available on public domain and freely available without taking pain to explore other areas, other ways to get the best reviews, etc., then it might become a problem. It might cause a severe problem to your research work. It poses a threat kind, like you did not discover the areas of international. And suppose if you are in doing the research on international business without exploring international papers, worked papers, if you write or talk about international business, that will definitely be not justified, and there would be questions on your work as to how justice you have done to your work. So initially itself, decide based on your topic that has been selected by you as a researcher. Ensure how much feasibility you have to do international research work, review of international research and national, and proportionately fix the number so that next levels when you progress, you will not have much problem and challenges later when you defend your thesis work. Okay. And yes, next, when we move on, the next area is uniqueness. Now, what is uniqueness all about? Uniqueness is all about anything. It can be linguistic, geographical, cultural, anything. So, in your work, okay, the work which you are planning at the very beginning stage, you may now have an immediate question: ki, how are we, how do we justify uniqueness, or how do we bring uniqueness in the very initial stages? Keep in mind, for any researcher, if you have all these points what is presented in the slide, uh, in the very beginning itself, when you have all these points in your mind and ensure that you fulfill all these criterias, and then move on to your writing work, I am sure 100% you will not go wrong, or your work will not get wasted. If you don't ponder on these points and then move on to writing thesis, I am sure 100% that you will come back again to see what all these are. So it is better suggested, take some time out and understand how unique your work is, and in what way it is unique. Whatever subject it could be, whatever domain it is related to: computer science, management, commerce, sciences, life sciences, or any other, microbiology, whichever it could be, but ensure the uniqueness. If you are, finding difficulty, then stay back there for a couple of more time you spend on it, and try to understand how different your work would be as compared to your literature work that you have studied. In the earlier point, I said about literature review to refer international and national journals. This will give you a base in identifying the uniqueness of your work. Write down your uniqueness of your work. Of course, all these are prone to change. You can change it later, but to start with, if you're having a clarity on these aspects, will give you more clarity on your work, and it will land you to a very safe zone with all these into consideration. Next are objectives of the proposed study. Objectives of the proposed study tentatively can be framed, and based on which the researcher would be planning as to how to design a questionnaire, how to set up hypotheses, etc. So objectives in point wise to be presented. Then we have a role of the study in the deciphering continuities. So how the study is important in the areas which are selected to be written down. Okay, researcher here should know how important is the study. The role of the study is going to contribute. Next, structural framework of the study. Here you need to pen down on a paper the structure of the complete study as to how you're going to start, including the count of the pages, the count of the duration, everything, whether it is if it is financial aspect is connected, then financially, all these aspects you can draw a flow chart and the connectivity for each stage. In the upcoming slides, I'll be showing how to write a PhD thesis. There, you will see how structured way it is. So these structure you need to pen down on a paper, and if possible, you can adopt the same, or otherwise you can have your own structure. Sometimes you need to frame your own structure with the given limitations, scope, etc. that you have. So that way, try to design the structure of your study as to how are you going to begin, how are you going to progress, how are you going to attain the results, and then finally conclude your work. So what way, including durations, etc. Make it quite clear. And then next we have identification of research gap. Now, identification of research gap is connected to the literature review. So here the research gap needs to be identified, based on which you are going to justify, carry on your PhD work. So research gap is very important. If you don't identify a proper research gap, there is no base for your work. And simply, if you think you can do a PhD work without identifying a gap, that means that you are posing a threat to your work. Immediate question to you will come from the panel or the seminar panel members asking as to how it is, relevance. In order to show that, you need to identify a proper gap. Gap means some loopholes, some unanswered questions which you find in the previous studies. Those unanswered questions, those levels at which they were not attained, those are the places where you can touch in your work, where you can explore on your with your work. So that way you need to defend your present work. So identification of research gap is very much essential. All right. Next, we have major research questions and hypothesis. Now, as you are now identifying the research gap, next immediately you can easily chalk down your research questions. The researchable questions can be any number from 2 to 10. And based on the same questions, you need to connect certain hypotheses. You need to draft some tentative statements which are referred as hypotheses. These are all having internal connectivity. The objectives, research gap, objectives, research questions, and hypothesis. Next, focus on writing methodology. Methodology includes various elements like the data, how data is collected, what type of data is collected, what is your sample, what is the sample size, what are the types of samples that you're using, what are the durations, how are you going to collect the data, what is the form of collecting data, how much data is responses are targeted, in what way are you going to reach them. All these plan of action is to be presented in methodology. This is most popularly referred as research design, research blueprint, research plan, etc. Okay. And yeah, then we have next point as major social and cultural theories to be applied in the proposed studies. You need to now connect to the existing knowledge bank, which is available in the form of books, journals, etc. in the libraries, e-libraries or offline libraries. You need to now look at those models, those research works which have been put up in the library and connect them and see what theories have been talking about your present content. If your research work is connected to HR or organizational behavior, human resources, then definitely you need to check back the theories. Okay, next we have significance and contribution. Significance here refers to how important the work is. How important the work is that you're going to carry on. Is it so important? Is what you need to answer. If your answer is yes, then how is it important? What is it going to make special contribution? Okay, so this point is all about significance and contribution. That is wherein a researcher would probably focus on drafting why, the relevance. Okay, why is it so important? And how is it going to make any difference is the contribution. So these two questions basically one will be answering here. Why is it important and how is it going to make a difference? Okay, next point is innovation and path breaking aspect of the proposed research. Of course, you might have selected a topic where you want to conduct a research on, and you initially have the feeling that this is what you want to do, and you are in a impression that nobody else has done it, and none of them might have already done it. But to your surprise, you will explore. When you explore, you will come to know that there are several studies already happened on this topic, and in several dimensions this has been covered. In that way, when you look at, then how different is your work, is you have to show now. That is where we talk about innovation. Okay, what everybody is already showing on the paper, in the journals, etc., if you are also doing the same thing, how different it is. Okay, there can be a slight difference, but you need to show the difference. Suppose there is a study conducted on financial inclusions in suppose Karimnagar area. Inclusions, financial inclusions. Now if you want to explore in Delhi, Haryana, or any other place, Gujarat, etc., this is going to be different. It is not going to be same. Okay, but if it is conducted in the same place, it is going to be repeated. Right? So you need to show how innovative or say path breaking. I mean, it is something really which is going to make any difference in that particular knowledge, bank of knowledge. Excuse me. So research work that you are planning to do should definitely have an element of innovation, and it should make some difference from the existing work. And that is where we always ask the scholars and the one who's doing researcher to review recent works, last year, 1 year back works. Now, when you are referring 1 year back international and national works, you will be having a clear idea as to what these people have done. And you can challenge these people's work, these works, and you can have you can draft a new work. You can propose a new work based on their work. So that way you need to show innovation. Okay, next is a point is on expected contribution of the research program for the Indian knowledge system. Yes, whether it is at the beginning, in the middle, when you are giving your progress seminars or presentations of your PhD work, partially when you are done, or say at the end later, or post PhD awardee. In future, you suppose you are done with your PhD and you got awarded a doctorate. Even later also, there would be people who would be asking you, people or organizations who would be asking you, what was your expected contribution? How did you contribute to the existing knowledge system? So this question is very important, either in the beginning or in the middle or at the end or post doctorate. It is going to make give you a clarity as to how are you going to additionally give or generate something innovatively and add to the existing knowledge. Okay, next point is focusing on expected output. Okay, now earlier step is about contribution. Now this is about expected output. Now this output should be your outcome, the final product. Either it should be a book, it should be a policy maker, a document, data set, archival material, etc. So it is not just you're writing your thesis, you're making a book, hardbound book, and submitting it to the university. One is with you, one is with university, done. Tomorrow newspaper may you are awarded PhD, you are finished. No. your work, whatever you've carried on, the proposed work, the output of the work should be reflected in either a book or in a policy making. It should become a data set. You need to send this material to various data sets like Shodh Ganga, research reservoirs, etc. You can archive these materials so that people can use your material for their references. All right, so expected output should form a place in your planning. All right, next is relevance of the proposed study for policy making. Now, relevance of the proposed study for policy.
Vasudhamma? Yeah, participants, Vasudhamma will join us now. We are very sorry for the inconvenience. She has some network disturbances. Thank you.
Extremely sorry for the disturbance.
It's okay, ma'am. You can continue.
Yeah. So feasibility of the proposed study is another last point where the researcher has to focus on. Feasibility is to check and ensure that the kind of work that you are proposing to carry on is good enough, valued enough in order to conduct a research on. Because it is general tendency at the brainstorming level when a researcher is starts preliminary stage where they do a lot of brainstorming on what to do, how to do, etc. During this period, it is quite normal for any researcher that they get lot many ideas, and they get exhaustive list of what topics and what so many topics and list. Now, given this so many list of ideas, exhaustive list, whether a researcher would be able to conduct or not, that check that they would be doing, the researcher would be doing, is referred as feasibility check. So not all the topics that has come to your mind or during brainstorming sessions, not every point or every topic seems to be conducting research on, because of various factors of selecting a unique topic, etc. They get rejected. So feasibility of the proposed study is very important. This will enable a researcher to understand whether you can carry on the research on this so and so topic or not. So feasibility check is the last point to be focused on. All right. So these are few points uh, before a research is carried on. Keep in mind all these questions and try to start answering them in your own style. Don't follow a structural way of writing down or etc. But all these points which have been discussed and explained on this slide, please keep in mind. And the most focusing questions are expected contribution and expected outcome, followed by the study and its impact on the society, policy making, and sustainability. These are few important points to be really focused on by a researcher. This basically will enable the researcher to understand how uniquely, how best their work is and is going to be. An estimation can be easily done. All right, so that was all about pre-PhD thought-provoking ways as to how to do, what to do, including what areas to be focused on. Now let's start on the actual work. To start with, state the topic, which is essentially idea of your work. State the main idea about the topic. Give reasons that suppose your idea. All this, put together is a feasibility check. Another reason that suppose your idea, yes, try to explore more and more on the same lines. And until you get a convincing, don't easily get convinced. Okay, criticize as much possible, and then finally, when you end up getting more and more reasons for why should you carry on this idea, just stop it there and just finalize that as your topic. Okay. And in this process of brainstorming in the initial first stage, include some ideas from your, friends, relatives, academicians, well-wishers, etc. Discuss with them. The more you discuss, the more ideas you will be getting. Next, we have the thesis. Thesis is a long piece of academic record. It is an original work which is done, carried on, and written word by word, page by page by the researcher. This is usually submitted at the end for possessing a degree. It basically tests your capacity of being an independent researcher, and the kind of academic writing that you're submitting to the universities, colleges, schools, etc., will be popularly referred as thesis. Okay. And now, what is thesis, and how it differs with dissertation and project work, research project work? Why should you need the dissertation, thesis, and research project work? In the next slide, we have the differences of how they differ. Now, this is an academic requirement. It has got certain learning methodology. It is being criticized. It is published, and mostly the kind of thesis work, dissertations, or research project work that we carry on. So at times we even see that we get grants from various sources, private and other institutes. We can claim funds, and using that for those funds, we can conduct the research and then finally submit the reports to those organizations who's funding our research work. Okay. And next we have how to start. So step 1 to step 10. Follow the steps and make your journey interesting. Step 1, choose your research area and discuss this with your guides, with your supervisors, etc., so that they give, you know, innovative ideas. They help you in ensuring that you selecting a right, topic in the very initial stage itself. So choose your area and also select the supervisor and guide. Some universities give the liberty to scholar to choose external and convenient supervisors. One supervisor will be appointed by them from their university side. Another supervisor you can choose based on your convenience and your flexibility. So that way, I will be helping many students, scholars who are doing PhDs and MPhils across, including the projects works like ICSSR projects and many other funding agencies. Research project work that they are carrying, I'll be supervising their work. So in this step 1, when you are selecting a supervisor, it becomes very very important step. This is why, because mostly it happens that the supervisor and students are distanced. Your university is somewhere and you are staying somewhere. Because of this very reason, you're not able to contact your supervisor, and because you're not able to contact supervisor, your work will not progress. In order to bring in one-stop solution for this, there are universities which give choice to the scholars to select a supervisor at their convenience, so that their work doesn't get stopped and their work, easily they can carry on the work with the easily available supervisor. So that way, I have a list of students to whom I am supervising their PhD works. Okay, next we have in step 2, where we try to check in what facilities, infrastructure, resources that we have. Mostly in life sciences, etc., they happen to conduct research in labs, etc. So these kind of facilities you need to check. Besides, even in social sciences, you need to check with the data, you need to check with the computers, with the softwares, etc., whether you have or not. If you don't have, then how are you going to possess them? So these kind of decisions you can focus on in step 2. If not, then are you ready to go with your own funds, or would you prefer to, bring in funds for your project from different sources? So that way you need to check out the agencies which will fund your work, research work, and then will help you to move your work. So you need to obtain all these data and fix your step two. And then moving on, you go to step three, where you fix your objectives and you will draw a structured protocol to be followed, which is mostly referred as research design or research methodology. All right. Next, we have step four. In step four, the focus is on the institute's body, committee, through which we get registered. This basically differs from university to university. So you need to check out with your university and the subject domain that you belong to. Accordingly, this approval and review committees will be fixed. And then we have step five, which is conduct of research as per the study design, and it is observational. Uh, yes. So research design, how it is framed and what to do next, step by step methodology will be fixed, followed by your data collection and storage of data should be done. Along with it, analysis part, how are you going to analyze your data, should be focused on. Some softwares which would be helping probably to do the analysis can be listed out, and you can take the help of those softwares like SPSS, PSPP, or Python, and many other as per the requirement. And then we have we move on to the step seven, where we focus, the researcher can focus on the material and writing part. So chapterization and then content development stage it is, where you have to develop your own content and start writing your own material in your own words. Step 8 is all about editing this content and ensuring that you don't have any problem with the language, ambiguity, and presentation. So whatever work that you are presenting should be meaningful without losing the real essence of it. So keeping in mind the essential requirements of how a thesis work is, you need to align your complete material till date, whatever you've been collecting, writing, putting them all in a proper aligned order is your step 8. Next, we move on to step 9, where we try to check the plagiarism, copyrights, acknowledgement, disclosures, conflicts of interest, etc. Now, all these is about copy, online material, and not acknowledging the person. Okay, so in any case, if you know to your consciousness that you have copied any content directly from internet or a textbook, etc., then immediately check your plagiarism. Online softwares are available. For plagiarism checking, you can approach statistics department at your universities, respective universities. They charge a nominal fee of rupees 500 to 1500. For mostly the PhD scholars, it is free in some universities. You can approach them and get the plagiarism check for your content. So this will give you a report which shows a percentage of plagiarism. This percentage of plagiarism again differs from university to university. Mostly ensure that you have plagiarism below 10%. Okay, if you find that your content has got plagiarism more than 10%, then immediately take back your thesis work and start rephrasing, rewriting again, and check what all possible changes that you can do to bring down this percentage. Again, redo the plagiarism check until and unless you get the desired number, that is below 10% is preferable. There are some universities which have given only 5% plagiarism. So check out and then go accordingly. Then last step is 10, where you are now ready with your pure and genuine work and very innovative work, isn't it? So now it is a last step where you will be focusing on publications. Okay, various leading journals, books, conferences, etc. You can go ahead on focusing presentations of your work. Okay. So here are few distinctions between dissertation thesis and a short-term research project. Based on the requirement, see, dissertation thesis is a requirement for a degree. Short-term research project also is a requirement of a degree, but it is for UG. But thesis and dissertations are submitted. Dissertation word is used for both UG, PG, and PhD works, but the meaning remains same, but methodology and the kind of work that you carry on differs. And these differences are mostly based on the duration that you carry. Like UG projects, you see semester projects, those are only focused on 3 months. They have been done only within 3 months. But PhD thesis is all about 4 years minimum. Years, not months. So duration makes a difference. Methodology that you are carrying, a very simple methodology is asked for UG students. PG students little higher, but PhD it is more complicated. Research outcome, as I have shown in the very first slide and discussed many points, how it is going to help in policy making, government, books, outcome, etc. So that is more important for a thesis work than for a short-term research project. Novelty, uniqueness should be one of the quality of your research work, novelty, for both short-term and as well as thesis work. Evaluation and defensing mechanism and the procedure differs. For UG, students, it is different, and for PhD, it differs. For PhD, there is a panel. UG, PhD, there is one external who comes in, who walks in and asks you certain questions in order to check out whether the work is done by you or it is copied, based on which you will be evaluated. Your work will be evaluated. All right. Next comes, what does it contain? The thesis contains front page, which includes title page, abstracts, etc. Next is introduction of the study. Next is literature review. I discussed about literature review, where international and national both should be proportionately covered. The theoretical framework or the structural framework that we have discussed in the first slide is all about how are you going to take up your work. That complete framework in the form of model should be presented. Okay, or a new model if you think you are developing with the help of your present work, that also can be presented. Then followed by results. Result is a very important aspect of your thesis work, which should be focused on outcome based, as we've discussed. How is it going to be unique, novel? How is it going to contribute to the society? Outcome, what is its outcome? What is its contribution? So this should be the important areas which are to be covered. And next, we have discussions and conclusions. Okay. Then end matter includes reference list, and if any, appendix, bibliographies, etc. can be included in it. Here we have some list of front pages, which includes title page, as I just discussed here, presented here. Title page should include all these elements like dissertation, name, name of the department, institution, degree of the program, date of submission. These are very important elements. Followed by acknowledgement, should be less formal and should be more personal. It is a place where you end up giving thanks to all those people directly and indirectly who all helped you. So Thanksgiving page it is. Okay, and then you have abstract, which should include what is your topic, what are your objectives, the methods that you have adopted, and then finally, briefly write about the conclusions, the outcomes that you have attained. Followed by next pages would be including table of content, which will show all the list of sections. For this, you can include you can take the help of the softwares which are available, Microsoft Word, which will auto-generate, or you can do it. But ensure that whatever you do, whether you take the help of software or you are doing it offline, personally, conventionally, ensure that it is clear, consistent with all the headings. And then present a paper which will give the list of abbreviations. Abbreviations should be aligned alphabetically, and all those short forms throughout the thesis work, 500 to 1000 to more than any number of pages that you have compiled, all this to be put at one place, and throughout all these pages, if any abbreviations if you have used, put them all in these pages and give the full form of it. Similarly is glossary page. Glossary page is a list of all those special terms that you have been using, technical terms, and meaning to those terms. Again, the glossary should also be alphabetically arranged, irrespective of page or page number, should be alphabetically arranged. Next is main part. Main part includes introduction, background work, scope, relevance, research questions, and the structure. Literature review, as we've discussed, it should have certain most important, relevant, critically evaluated sources. You need to create connections, draw conclusions, and build your own research graph. Then we have theoretical framework, which includes literature review. It tries to analyze the various theories, concepts, and models which are already existing and create a connectivity to the present work. That is all about theoretical framework. Then we move on to the next page, which is methodology. Methodology, it's an overall method that you have adopted: quantitative, qualitative, survey, data collection. How did you do? Survey, interview. So many methods are there. Out of that, which one did you adopt? That details you need to put up here. And details like where, when, who, all those details you need to enter clearly, elaborately. Tools and materials, lab equipments, programs, softwares, and the various challenges that you faced also should be listed. And then finally, we have results. Results are all those, pages that you happened to discuss earlier. Here, a report is all about, results report is all about a very concise and objectively, which connects to the objectives. It includes the most relevant work which are connected directly to your questions. It might also include some tables, graphs, etc. Okay. And then finally, you need to have a discussion pages where you will discuss about, did you meet your expectations? Is your established framework structured? Is aligned properly or not? What were your factors that influenced the results? If not, then what are the reasons? So all these questions need to be answered here in discussion page. And then finally, you end up with conclusion, where you write conclusions on future research, what exactly you contributed, and then how relevance it is. The first slide I focused on showing you the emphasis on the relevance of your research. So that way you will be writing your conclusion. And then comes the last part, which is end part. And this includes references. So references basically, again, it needs to be very popularly, it is APA style. Otherwise also you can firstly check out with your universities as to what type are they preferring, and then go ahead. This again had a software, you can build up your own style, and follow it on your Microsoft Word options APA style, the 20 new version of Microsoft. It enables you to do it automated. If yes, you can, or otherwise you can do it hand conventionally also, not a big problem. You can do it even conventionally. Depending on your requirement, you can choose. Citation generators, all these are various, softwares which are available online, which you can take the help and generate the citations. Okay, so this is references, and then finally appendices. All those documents which doesn't form or in or have not included in the main work, that is thesis work, like interview transcripts, survey questions, table of data, etc., can be named as appendix 1, appendix 2, and then they can be appended lastly. Okay, and yeah, all these put together we call as the appendixes. Any page which did not fit in, okay, which couldn't be fit in the main thesis, but yet you feel those papers are important, can be appended in the last session. All right, so that was all about how effectively you can write PhD thesis, with some points to ponder on to start with, and then have a great journey, and finally end up with the fruitful results. So with this, I end up session, and time here now for questions. Anyone, any questions, please feel free to use your chat box and then ask questions.